Welcome to CBS Sports HQ. I'm your host, Jenny Dell. If you have not heard, you must be living under a rock. Football is back, baby. We got preseason football tonight. We had the Hall of Fame game last week. The Chargers defeated the Lions 34-7. And tonight, we start with the Colts and the Ravens, followed by the Bengals, the Super Bowl champs, Eagles. They'll be out there, and at 10 p.m. Eastern, we're looking at the Raiders and the Seahawks matchup. But let's dive into that first matchup between Indy and Baltimore. Now, Colts head coach Shane Steichen, he already announced his plans for the quarterback situation going on there. It's between Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. Steichen has confirmed Richardson will start the Colts' first preseason game against the Ravens. Jones will start the team's second preseason game against the Packers. So what does that mean? Well, let's figure it out. Ryan Wilson jumping on with us now to get us ready for tonight's game. So what do you make of this decision to go with Anthony Richardson tonight in game one of the preseason, Ryan?
Hey, Jenny, good to see you. I love your energy. It feels like you're really excited about preseason football,
right
so I'm going to try to match that energy. Hopefully, Anthony Richardson brings that energy to the field against the Ravens, because here's the thing. You can look at this two ways. Like, they're giving him an opportunity to win this job outright and make us all forget about Daniel Jones taking over and what could eventually be a Sam Darnold type situation. But the other thing is this. The Ravens treat the preseason like the regular season. John Harbaugh rarely loses preseason games. They won more than 20 games in a row, and I think this will be a real test for Anthony Richardson. So if he comes out the other side and he performs well, I would imagine Shane Steichen, the head coach, will feel much better about moving forward into the regular season with AR5 as his guy. Now, if things don't go quite so well, and we see a lot of the same mistakes we saw the last 2 years, the first 2 years in the league for Anthony, then we're going to have to continue to have that Daniel Jones conversation. So this is going to be an opportunity against a really good football team that takes preseason football incredibly seriously in the Baltimore Ravens. And if AR5 comes out on top, that's great news for his chances to win that job and keep the job once we get to regular season.
Yeah, you mentioned the Ravens obviously take this very seriously, and you look at this quarterback situation with the Colts. I mean, at this point, is it dependent on what happens in these preseason games, whether it's going to be Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, or how do you think that quarterback battle is playing out internally?
Yeah, so when you read the camp reports every day coming out of Indianapolis, they're pretty similar in terms of how both these players are playing, and the big struggles have come in the red zone. So if we can see one of these quarterbacks step up and make some plays in the red zone, either with their legs or with their arm, and get touchdowns on the board, that is a step in the right direction. Also incredibly important when you talk to folks around the league is preseason games certainly have a lot to do with it, but those joint practices sometimes give you a better glimpse into what the players on your side of the field are going to look like once the regular season gets here. So I think if we see someone take an advantage in the red zone opportunities and make the most of that, that's a great direction to be going in if you're trying to win this starting job. And the other thing is this, and we talked about this to death, and you remember covering Anthony in the SEC days, he had only started 13 games coming out of Florida, so he still has a long way to go developmentally, but that needs to speed up, and it starts with him taking his job seriously, which he has talked about at times this summer, being more in his playbook and so on and so forth. So red zone would be a great place to start, and then the obvious overall consistency that we didn't see from Anthony in the first 2 years.
All of that is so important, and when they do decide who's going to be out there, game one of the regular season, how long of a leash do you think that these quarterbacks have, depending on who it is? I mean, is it going to be after a couple games, this isn't working, let's switch things up, or do you think they're going to stick with a guy?
Yeah, and that's the thing, and I talked about this a few weeks ago, that I would start Anthony Richardson and give him the first month of the season to prove that he can make steps in the right direction. That schedule, a mix of games they could win, and going to be some pretty tough competition. But the problem is this, Jenny, if you pull Anthony Richardson, say, in week 5 and then go to Daniel Jones, you can't really go back to Anthony Richardson. And we had this discussion last year with Bryce. Bryce Young got benched in week 2, and he got back on the field because Andy Dalton got in that car accident, and that opened the door, and Bryce took over and ran with it. Now he's the clear-cut starter. So you look at the first 4 games here, Dolphins, Broncos, Titans, Rams, 2-2 feels like a distinct possibility. But if you show in that Dolphins game and that Titans game, if you're Anthony Richardson, you have to ask some tough questions as the Colts coaching staff. And then, but again, if you bench Anthony Richardson in that Raiders Raiders game, for example, and Daniel Jones plays like Daniel Jones, are you going to come back to Anthony in Week 8? You have to be careful and guard against that. So, look, let's be honest. The Colts probably aren't going to win the division. They're probably long shots to make the playoffs. I would give Anthony Richardson a much longer lease than Daniel Jones, just so we finally know. And if you need to draft a quarterback in 259 days until the next draft, and that's actually right because I just checked, then you do it. But for now, you have to figure out what you have in Anthony Richardson.
Of course you know how many days it is until the next draft. You're crazy. You're crazy, Ryan Wilson. I would say one of the best parts of these preseason games is also the rookies getting out there. We've seen all the workouts and everything, but making their debuts in this next chapter. Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State, he just wowed fans last season. Hey, if they need a quarterback, like, just go to Tyler Warren, see what happens there. What can we expect out of him tonight?
And this could be Anthony Richardson's best friend by the time it's all said and done. We saw what Brock Bowers did last year for Aiden O'Connell in Vegas. And now Geno Smith's the quarterback there, and things are probably going to get even better offensively. But if you have someone like Tyler Warren who can take over games from the tight end position, and you touched on it, Jenny, he can play tight end, he can play quarterback, he can play long snapper, he can probably punt if you need him to. But he is all business, whether you talk to him when he was at Penn State or whether you've talked to him since. He cares about one thing, and that's football. And that sense, he reminds me a lot of Brock Bowers. Not quite as athletic, but he doesn't have to be because he wins with sheer determination, hard work, and he has plenty of athleticism to do the things you need him to do in the middle of the field. So if I'm Anthony Richardson, I'm leaning on him early and often. If I need to check the ball down, I'm looking for Tyler Warren. I'm making teams force defenses taking Tyler Warren away to open up other options for me. But this could be the turning point in Anthony Richardson's career because I think Tyler Warren is going to hit the ground running. He probably won't put up Brock Bowers' numbers in year one because Brock Bowers is literally one of the best players in the NFL already. But if you get 65 to 70% of Brock Bowers, that is a great start to a rookie season and also helps out your young quarterback.
Yeah, that would be considered a win. And for any folks who have not watched Tyler Warren play, you are in for a treat. He is very fun to watch. When you look at this Ravens squad, so Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, they are not playing tonight. Is this just as simple as not wanting to put them in harm's way when we're all very fully aware of what they're capable of?
Yeah, absolutely. And now that the streak is over in terms of undefeated, that undefeated run in the preseason, I think you can take it easy with those guys. Derrick Henry's north of 30. Lamar Jackson, you know what you're getting in him. And there's no reason to put those guys in harm's way because you're going up against who? You're not going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Ultimately, you're going up against the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs to win the conference. So you're not going to win any Super Bowls in August. But what you can find out is how your backups look. Cooper Rush and Devin Leary, they're fighting for the number 2 job. And then look at the other players on your roster who are on the fringe, the roster bubble in terms of making it inside that 53-man roster on game days, and that includes certainly a bunch of rookies. But there are much bigger issues to worry about if you're the Ravens than your quarterback and your running back because those are the 2 best positions in the league as currently constituted in that Ravens roster. Yeah,
they're in a good spot with that right now. There are some rookies that we should watch out for tonight with Baltimore. Malachi Starks, Mike Green. Starks, the safety, was a first-round pick for the Ravens, 27th overall. Mike Green, outside linebacker, selected in the 2nd round. How will they benefit from getting their feet wet?
Yeah, this almost feels unfair, the draft that the Ravens had, because Malachi Starks is in a lot of ways like Kyle Hamilton, slipped a little bit in the first round, should have probably gone higher. And to have he and Kyle Hamilton in that secondary together once the regular season starts is going to be absolutely scary because their cornerbacks are really good. The one thing they need to concern themselves with is improving that pass rush, and that's in part why we hear Micah Parsons' name mentioned as a possible trade partner with the Ravens. But Mike Green plays with his hair on fire. It actually sort of looks like it there. But if he's able to tap into what we saw at Marshall and UVA before that, this will be another Grand Slam draft pick for the Ravens because he comes off the edge. I said it last fall, Jenny. No one played with a higher motor for 60 snaps a game than Mike Green did, and that includes Abdul Carter and every other edge rusher drafted before Mike Green, who slipped into the 2nd round because of some off-field stuff. He has first-round talent. And by the time this is all said and done in a couple of years, we might say Mike Green and Malachi Starks were both top 10 picks that they got in rounds 1 and 2 at bargain basement prices, it might feel like in the future. So I'm looking forward to those guys both tonight this weekend, and then also to see how their rookie seasons go, because they could be the difference between winning or losing an AFC Championship game to get back to the Super Bowl.
That's a big difference right there. Ryan Wilson getting us ready for some exciting preseason football. It's going to be a really great year. If you want more from Ryan Wilson and his cast and crew that he goes along with, you got to check out With the First Pick. It's our podcast that really prepares you for this football season, talking about those young players. There's a scouting series looking at the defensive backs that rank 1 through 5 right now for the 2026 NFL draft. They also discuss some notable storylines ahead of tonight's preseason game.